Thank you for joining us for The Drive Back, the movie podcast where, of course, we imitate our favorite thing to do after a movie, which is to talk about it on the ride home. As always, my name is Garrett, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host Adrian.
Hey,
And today we have another first-timers, which is what, Adrian?
this is where neither of us have seen the movie, and we go ahead and we both watch it for the first time. It can pretty much range anything from hit movies that neither of us have seen to cult classics that we haven't seen. But rest assured, this is the first time either of us have ever seen it.
Absolutely. And today we have one that's been heavily requested for me to watch, and I don't know about you, but that is the Grand Budapest Hotel. All of this and more coming up on The Drive Back. All right, so a Wes Anderson film finally showing up on the drive back. This has been a long time coming. So let's go ahead and dig straight in. Released in 2014, The Grand Budapest Hotel was directed by Wes Anderson and stars Ralph Fiennes, F. Murray Abraham, and Adrian Brody, among a bunch of others. A writer encounters the owner of an aging high-class hotel who tells him of his early years serving as a lobby boy in the hotel's glory years under an exceptional concierge. It won 4 Oscars for Best Costume Design, Best Makeup, Best Original Score, and Best Production Design. It was also nominated for 5 more, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, and Best Original Screenplay. Quite the awards darling.
Oh, yeah.
And have you seen a Wes Anderson film before Grand Budapest Hotel?
If you listed them off, I probably have, but not to my immediate knowledge. I know I've researched them a ton just from a cinematography and director aspect. But I couldn't tell you actually.
The Grand Budapest Hotel is probably his most notorious and most famous one recently. He's also done Isle of Dogs. There
And
was
the other one with
also
the family, right?
there was Fantastic Mr. Fox, and then there was the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, I believe. And then Moonrise Kingdom was another one that was an awards darling as well.
Oh, I saw Moonrise Kingdom. I thought he had one where there was like a family and everybody in it.
Um, he may have done Royal Tenenbaums. I'm not sure.
That is him. That's it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, this was actually my first Wes Anderson film in live action. I've seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I will admit, I was one of the people that just claimed that Wes Anderson was incredibly pretentious, and was high on his own supply, and was making these movies that'd be quirky for the sake of being quirky. And I can safely say, after watching The Grand Budapest Hotel, I was dead wrong.
Yeah,
this movie
that's
is so
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
What
it's
did you think?
I loved it. I didn't really know anything about it besides the fact that it was titled about a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about any of the cast members or anything, but I think my mom had seen it when it was in theaters along in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember her saying it was good, so I didn't really have any expectations, but I was totally blown away. I was super engaged the whole time. Every single scene had me wondering what was going to happen next. I would say if I had to kind of give an explanation of what this movie does so well, is that it doesn't dwell too long on anything unnecessary. It's very to the point, and I think it's a credit to the director style and the cinematography is that it only shows you what you need to see and then it moves on very quickly. I
Uh,
mean, it gives you a whole story in a pretty compact time frame. I think it's like under 2 hours.
It's an hour and a half. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it doesn't feel like it. It's one of those words, like, it creates this aesthetic. It creates this little world for itself, this fantasy version of Europe, pre World War II, and it's just delightful.
yeah.
But I mean,
No,
even then, it had a little more darkness than I thought it would have in it. A lot of language, a lot more sexual content than I thought would have been in it. Especially the part when Jeff Goldblum, gets the door closed on his hand which I thought
Yeah.
was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But before we dive in anymore, we're going to drop a spoiler warning. But if you would like to watch the Grand Budapest Hotel, you unfortunately have to rent it, but that means you can watch it on pretty much any platform. Amazon Prime, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever you have should be available to rent on there. So we're going to drop a spoiler warning. I think both of us highly recommend you go see this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's one of those ones. I watched, actually. Quick shout out. I watched this with my parents because they thought they would be, interested. It's the first movie they've watched with me that's been on the channel, which has been really fun. But my dad actually sat through pretty much the entire thing, and I was expecting him to walk out in the first 10 minutes. So I was like, okay, cool. And they liked it. So
I think it's one of those things that the art style. So there are films that exist that are way too art housey, and I know people like you before this film have called Wes Anderson out for doing that.
yeah,
And I think this movie establishes within those first 10 minutes that it's not him trying too hard. It's just who he is. It's
Yeah.
just how he makes movies. It's not like he goes into it saying, I'm going to make the most artistic thing anyone's ever seen.
yeah.
It's just that he is very artistic, and I think it comes
Yeah.
across as very genuine.
And he has a different way of showing things and telling his story. And it's as a storyteller myself, when I in my free time, like it's really refreshing. The dialogue is so incredibly well written. You do kind of have to get over the pastel colors, and the kind of quick-footed dialogue. But once you do, it's an incredibly just pleasant time. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and drop spoilers, and we'll go ahead and just plow on right ahead. The first thing I want to touch on with this movie is the sheer number of actors and how well everyone does.
Yeah, I think everybody does incredible, and they really start to pile on towards as you get to like the second half of the movie. There's a lot of famous people in this that I feel like worked for maybe a day. Like
Yeah.
they came out, filmed their scene, and then left, and that's all the part they have in the whole movie.
Exactly. Like, Bill Murray's in this movie, and, like, for maybe 4 minutes.
Owen Wilson's in it for like 2 scenes.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, I'm so, and we'll talk about this towards the end, I'm so looking forward to the French Dispatch now because it has even more people in it.
Yeah,
Which
and I
is
think it's one of
driving
those
me
things.
crazy.
All those people, it's one of those things where it's a Wes Anderson film, so you just want to be in it.
Yeah.
So all these big name actors, most of the time you'd be like, how could they possibly get these people into the movie? And it's because of the name. I mean, it's almost like being in a Quentin Tarantino film.
Yeah.
It's like you just want to be invited. You just want to be there. Though it worked. There's a ton of people in this one.
Yeah, and really the standouts in this movie, at least for me, Ray Fiennes, who plays the concierge M. Gustav, is just incredible in this movie.
Yeah, they make a great duo.
Yeah, and the kid, I don't know the actor's name, unfortunately. He does a great job, and it's his first movie. And it's actually the same actor who is in the newer Spider-Man movies as Flash Thompson.
Yes.
The one that makes fun of Peter Parker but loves Spider-Man, which is just funny to me. But
Well, it's funny because we know who's behind the curtain.
But like this really proved me that he could hold his own against actors who were like much his senior.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man, I don't want to say is a disservice because he is a main character and he does his role well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he is definitely above most other people.
Oh yeah.
Like I think this definitely proved that he has the chops to battle it out with some of the larger named actors.
Absolutely. When he's on the screen with Ray Fiennes, Adrian Brody, Jude Law, F. Murray Abraham, Jeff Goldblum, Saoirse Ronan, who does a really good job in this movie. Like there's no one person I can't highlight. Everyone in this movie is great. So
But I think something that the movie itself, and I mean the actors doing it, but this movie did the best thing that any movie can do, and I'm excited to watch more Wes Anderson because I hear they're all like this, but it shows instead of tells 90% of the time.
yes.
Specifically, there's a scene where when you first get introduced to the bellboy or the lobby boy, he has this little pencil mustache, and then you find out that every morning he wakes up, he draws it on. And I feel like they don't acknowledge it. It's not a huge point. They don't focus on it. It's just while he's getting ready, but it tells you everything you need to know about this character, that he wants to be respected and more mature and older because he knows he can do it, but he has to pretend. And it's just with one, maybe like half a second clip
Mm-hmm.
in the film, you really understand everything. And they do that for all the characters. And
Yeah.
very quickly, they do certain things here and there that establish their motives and their characters beyond sometimes what even modern exposition does in modern movies.
Yeah.
It's really artistic.
It's artistic in a way that I used to think was just pretentious and on a high horse, but I love being wrong, and so like I'm gonna
Especially for this, yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna eat my shorts on this one. Like this is just an amazing movie. I'm actually literally with payday tomorrow. I'm ordering the Criterion Collection Blu-ray of it because this is
Oh,
just
nice.
it's so good.
I love the use of models as well. The
Oh yeah.
interchangeable use of like model sets and miniatures. There's a specific scene that really kind of blew me away. Very subtle, but when they're up on the mountain in this at the very towards the end,
Mm.
and the camera's very far away and it zooms in, and all you see is their silhouettes on the end of a
Yeah.
balcony. But you can hear them like you're right next to them, but it's also just models.
Yeah.
Like it's just a tiny little setup. And I mean, the interchanging is so smooth and it creates such a vibe to the movie that the charm is undeniable.
Oh yeah, and even the darker moments, like the incredible tense moment between Jeff Goldblum and Willem Dafoe going through the museum is great, and then ends with a bit of slapstick humor when he closes the door in his hand and chops the fingers off, which is just hilarious to me.
And I think they were
Um,
able to bring the charm into all those, like when Adrian Brody is chasing the girl, cannot remember her name, Agatha,
hmm
through the hotel towards the end. They're doing like this crazy like artistic walking chase scene, and then it does his famous 90-degree camera whip, and she's sprinting down the next
hmm
hall while he's still walking. And then when he sees that she ran, he's like, "Oh God!" And then he has to run. And they kind of do such a good job of like saying, "Yes, this is the vibe," but yeah, she could run. There's no reason she has to walk.
Yeah,
And I feel like they do such a good job with that.
yeah, it's incredible, and the miniatures are another thing I want to highlight too because they're really well done in this movie. No exterior shot of the hotel is not miniature; it's all
Yeah.
miniature, and I really really want to point out the biggest things for me in this movie, and I kept commenting on it the whole time I was watching it: the production design. This movie, like the sets, look incredible. From Agatha's bare room that is probably just in a a warehouse somewhere with just sheets around, and it looks like it's somewhere else, to the fact that they had to recreate the lobby of this hotel in two different time periods and did it incredibly well, which is actually interesting. I don't know if you know the story behind the hotel set, the lobby. They went around Europe looking for a hotel that matched the description.
Hmm.
They couldn't find one. They literally, like, every hotel they went to, it would not work. They actually found a rundown department store, and that became their hotel.
Interesting. They kind of built it inside of it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
really, really interesting work, and it's just everything from the costume design to the makeup. I mean, the Oscars speak for themselves. Like everything behind the scenes in this movie is flawless.
Yeah.
Just absolutely incredibly on point.
I think even like you're talking about what I'll talk about Agatha's room as well. When he's in there talking to her, and then you find out that he's not supposed to be there. Again, they don't tell you that he's not supposed to be there. She doesn't ever say, "You have to be quiet or my dad will hear." That's telling. What this movie does is you just hear the faint footsteps coming and he freaks out because he
Yeah.
knows he's not supposed to be there. But then they also subvert expectations when instead of like hiding behind the bed or hiding somewhere, he climbs upwards through the roof of the room. And it just does such world building, little things like that throughout the entire film that show you that like there's more than what you're seeing on screen. It feels bigger. There's stuff you can't see down each doorway. And it's truly incredible.
Yeah. And speaking of Agatha, I think it's hilarious. I pointed out, I think the first or second scene she was in, that she has the mark on her face in the shape of Mexico, and
Yeah.
it's not even brought up until like halfway through the movie. like,
And very casually, like, that beautiful girl, she has a birthmark the shape of Mexico on her face. And you're like, oh, I guess it is the shape of Mexico.
oh my gosh, I love it. And I love the banter between Zero and Gustav when like he's like, "Well, I approve of this union." He just looks over and he's like, "Stop flirting with my wife." it's it's great.
I also loved the premise of the movie, which was that it was a story of a story. So it was a
Yes.
narrator talking about him listening to a story.
Technically, it's a story of a story
It's a
of
book.
a story.
Yeah,
Because it
'cause
starts
the book.
out when the author in the future.
Which also such a cool thing that totally brings your interest in is seeing all the hotel key fobs on the grave.
Mm-hmm.
Like immediately you're like, oh, what? Like that's really interesting. First of all, great art piece. Would love to own that. I don't know where that is, but I want it. Um, so the storytelling by the old man and some of the things, the little bit of narration that he has after, of course, it commits to flashbacks. But when he does speak, he says some really insightful things. Like for example, like he was a man of his time, and then him older says, but I think the time was already gone by the time he came around. Like he just created a very convincing illusion.
Yeah.
And again, just little lines like that gave you so much insight into these characters that really made it. It's honestly mind blowing how crazy, real, and deep these characters are for such quip dialogue. It's so back and forth, but there's so much in it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But one of my only real complaints about this film, and I have to watch more of Wes Anderson's movies to see if it's just this one or if it's an ongoing thing. There's a lot of narration, and narration is. And I'm not one of those people who hates narration. Like it's important at the beginning of your movie, whatever, and even like during like heist sequences or escapes or something like that, it can be good. But I feel like it's a little bit overused in this movie. I think I could have used with a little bit less.
Okay, I can see that.
It's a very minor complaint, though. Like, I really don't have any other complaints. It could have been a little bit longer, maybe.
I don't think it needed to be.
But
I
it
feel
didn't
like
need to be. Yeah.
the shortness really all like the shortness of the dialogue and the pacing of the film being so like here, 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 really I think denotes itself to a shorter film in general. You don't need more. You get what you get, and I think that's also a plus that the movie is contained, right? You do
Yeah.
want more. That's a great feeling to have leaving a movie for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Well,
like so, I think
yeah.
for the most part, there are
Yeah.
times where that's not so good. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's all positive for me. I couldn't really think of a negative. I think it was really mind blowing. I get why it's in the Criterion collection.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think so. For me, this is a very controversial take right now, but I think there are movies that, like I said in the very beginning, lean way too far into art housey film style, and a lot of A24 films have been accused of that. And like right now, this is so controversial. I'm nervous to even say this hot take. I think The Green Knight leaned way too far into being art housey. Yeah,
No.
see, Garrett's so mad at me. I think it was way too like yeah, artsy, I guess. And I think this movie, The Grand Budapest Hotel, hit it right on the head of comfortable. I mean, pushing your boundaries a little bit, but making you feel like you can follow everything and understand, and it's cohesive and it fits the aesthetic of the director's vision, and it's incredible. I think it's the perfect balance for this movie.
Well, I must disagree on The Green Knight. I think that Grand Budapest Hotel is way more art housey than Green Knight is. No, we're not talking about The Green Knight. I already did a review on that on my blog. But I can definitely see the critique, because I had the critique before I even watched it. You know, like,
For this one?
is this going to be too art house? Yeah. And there are moments when it's like it does skirt a little bit, like it gets close,
Yeah.
but it's like it honestly is just a part of its charm, and it doesn't feel art house. If anything, it just feels indie. It feels like a product of someone who doesn't like the traditional studio system and wants to just make what they want, which is completely respectable.
And I think this movie, those moments you're talking about where it pushes a little bit, I think it's almost Wes Anderson's way of breaking the fourth wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's not by looking into the camera, it's not by talking to the audience, it's by the boundary of his aesthetic just enough where you kind of go like, did that camera just spin in a full circle?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a weird shot, but then the movie keeps going. But it's like I feel like it's his little nod to be like, yeah, this is what's happening, and like kind of tell the audience that it's going on.
The part where it starts to skate a little too close to artsy for me is like a lot of them. It's like the skiing chase, like the fact that they're clearly they're skiing, but then like the miniatures like and they're super quick, and you're like, how are you alive? Like So like a couple of the miniature sets can get a little like the one that like when people are moving is a little weird, but other than that, I mean, it's just a part of its charm, really.
Like even when they're going up the mountain and the two ski lifts join, those miniatures look so cool.
Oh yeah,
Like it
like
feels so cool to watch them and be like, man, most movies just do CGI now. But
yeah.
like that's a real little prop. You could tell. And it adds such a charm that's it's undeniable and I wanted to watch more.
Yeah, I really want to watch Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I haven't seen Isle of Dogs, so I really want to watch Isle of Dogs,
Yeah.
Moonrise Kingdom, and then really, really looking forward to French Dispatch. So,
Yeah.
but anything else you want to talk about with the Grand Budapest stuff? Because I feel like there's really not much else to say.
Yeah, this happens to us when we do like historic like the Criterion collection. What are we gonna do? Sit here and be like, I didn't like that the hotel was pink. Like, it's
It could have
hard
been
to,
a pastel blue.
yeah, it's
Like,
hard to argue when it's universally accepted as a good movie. But yeah, I mean, my final thoughts. I feel
mhm.
like it's easy to jump into. I think I haven't seen any other Wes Anderson, but if this isn't him at firing on all cylinders, I cannot wait to watch his other movies because this one is absolutely incredible. I highly recommend it. If you feel like you saw the trailer and you were like, that doesn't look like my style, give this one a shot.
Yeah.
I think you'll find that it's not what you thought it was going to be, and it works so dang well that I think it's 100% worth giving a shot. Or even just get a bunch of friends together that you thought it was going to be dumb and put it on as a joke and watch all of you and your friends suddenly become really invested in this movie. But so because that, I really, really liked it. I don't think it's perfect. I don't have a negative for it,
hmm
but my body and my brain says I don't think it's 100, so I gave it a 99.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this movie's really, really good. I love the use of miniatures. I love the vibe. I love the aesthetic. I love it all. I think it was awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is a huge, high recommendation for me. It's an incredibly charming film that just it looks good, it sounds good, it feels good. Everything about it just feels right. Again, I agree. I don't think it's perfect. I feel like there's in it, but I would have to go through years and years of film school to even begin to talk about what doesn't work and what does. But we here are our armchair critiques.
Yeah,
We'll do our
to a
best.
great director. Yeah.
But that being said, as far as a score, I kind of went back and forth on it. My score initially went up from what I had originally given it. I gave Grand Budapest Hotel a 97.
Nice, right up there.
So, yeah, really, really, really good movie. Highly, highly recommend it. I'm going to keep saying that.
Yeah,
But
no, I agree.
yeah, so that's going to bring us to an end for this First Timers. Adrian, for the love of all that is just out there on the silver screen, if anyone doesn't know where to find us online, where can they do so?
Well, if you're hearing our voices, whatever you're on, just go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button. If you're here on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe and the little bell. We do post every Monday, as well as exclusive videos here on YouTube where you can actually watch us. And those exclusive things tend to be more very up to date. Like we'll go see the midnight premiere and put it out the next day, kind of thing. So you get a lot more up to date information on movies that are just coming out here on YouTube. Everywhere else you can find us at the Drive Back Podcast. That's on Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcast, Stitcher, any of those, as well as social media. Drive Back Podcast, you can find us there. We love to talk to you guys on Instagram. We post whenever we have a new episode, and we also take movie recommendations. So go ahead and drop a recommendation over there.
Absolutely. And make sure to follow us both individually as well for our own updates. I also, which I'll link down below again, is my film blog where I do my reviews for stuff that we don't necessarily get to cover here on the show. Movies like The Green Knight or Snake Eyes, Old. Those have been covered on my blog, which you can find at garretto'keefefilm.blogspot.com. And I'm pretty sure by the time this comes out, we should have our Suicide Squad review pretty much coming up. I know that today it's currently Thursday the 5th. I'm going to see it tonight. I don't know about you.
Nope.
But yeah, well, hopefully it'll be out by the time this video goes up. So, but other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We love you so much, and we'll see you next time on The Drive Back. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Drive Back. Make sure to be on the lookout for new episodes every Monday, and make sure to follow us on social media.